St. Petersburg, a beautiful yet cold city in Russia. Its streets are draped in snow, and the air is filled with silence and solemnity. Among these snowy alleys lived a young man named Alexander Petrovich. He was intelligent, charming, but heedless. Alexander's days started late, and his nights extended into meaningless hours spent on video games, social media, and distractions. He often skipped university lectures, and even when present, his mind wandered. His mother, Anna Petrovna, would often say, "My son, time is precious. One day, time will hold you accountable." But Alexander would laugh it off. He believed life was meant to be enjoyed, not caged. One day, his father, Pyotr Petrovich, who owned a small bookshop, died of a heart attack. It was the first real shock in Alexander's life. But even then, he didn't remain serious for long. He coped by spending more time with friends and burying his thoughts. A few weeks later, one night, he had a strange dream. Alexander stood in a cold, dark graveyard. Before him lay an open grave, and inside, his father was restlessly turning from side to side, worry written all over his face. "Alexander!" His voice was weak. "Father, what are you doing here? What is happening?" "Son, don't waste time. Every moment is precious. I never understood this. Now I'm being held to account. There's no time left here, only regrets." Alexander tried to step back, but his feet were rooted to the ground. Suddenly, a beam of light descended from the sky, illuminating the grave. A simple inscription appeared. "Once time passes, it never returns." He woke up in a cold sweat. His heart was racing. The clock read 3 a.m. His mother was in the next room, praying Tahajjud. Her soft voice echoed, "By time, indeed mankind is in loss." Something stirred in Alexander's heart, like a lock trembling to open. That day, he tried going to university on time, but his heart remained unsettled. He couldn't understand what the dream meant, or why his mother's recitation had shaken him so deeply. That night, he opened the Russian translation of the Quran his father once brought home. His eyes landed on Surah Al-Asr. By time, indeed mankind is in loss. He stared at the verse for a long time. These weren't just words, they were light. He whispered to himself, "Am I really wasting my time? Am I among those in loss?" The next day, while walking to university, he passed an old monastery. Outside sat an elderly man with a calm aura. Looking directly at Alexander, the man said, "Son, do not make time your enemy. One day it will avenge itself." Startled, Alexander asked the man's name. "I am Alyosha, a traveler of time." Alyosha invited him to sit. A carpet lay on the snowy ground, and a fire burned beside them. Alyosha pulled out a pocket watch. "Broken. This belonged to my father. When he died, the watch stopped. Time didn't stop for him, nor for me. Only memories remained, but the time he wasted became his burden in the afterlife." For the first time, Alexander listened deeply to an elder. Alyosha asked him to return the next day. From that point, a new journey began. Alexander started visiting Alyosha daily after university. The wise man shared stories of life, time, worship, and effort, each tied to a verse or a hadith. One day, Alyosha handed him a paper. "This is a time schedule. If you follow this, time will become your friend. Alexander began to adopt it, waking up early, praying, attending lectures, eating on time, and reading before bed. It was hard at first, but within a month, he began to feel transformed. His mother was surprised. His friends were confused. He spent less time online and more with books. He started a small blog, Vreme dar Bože, Time, a Gift from God, where he shared hadiths, quotes, and reflections on time. Within weeks, he gained thousands of followers. Soon, an Islamic school in Russia invited him to speak to students about valuing time. Nervous, he turned to Alyosha, who said, "If you've befriended time, now share it. That is your duty." That day, Alexander stood before an audience for the first time and said, "I'm Alexander. I was once time's enemy. Today, I'm its friend. Time brought me back to myself. If you understand time, you'll discover who you truly are." Silence filled the hall, followed by thunderous applause. Tears welled in his eyes. His light had awakened another soul. A year had passed since Alexander had embraced a disciplined life. His transformation was evident, not only in his behavior, but also in the way people viewed him. He had become a mentor, a writer, and a humble student of time. His blog, Time, a Gift from God, was now read across Russia and beyond. Schools and mosques invited him regularly to speak, yet with this newfound respect came new challenges. One frosty morning, Alyosha summoned him with a message. The journey of time does not end with knowledge. It begins with service. Come, I have something to show you. Alyosha took Alexander to a forgotten clock tower on the outskirts of the city. It had once been a symbol of St. Petersburg's unity, but it now stood rusted and abandoned. This clock, Alyosha said, was built to remind people of the value of every hour. When it chimed, workers began their day, mothers prepared meals, children ran to school. But now, silence. Time continues, but people no longer hear it. Alexander placed his hand on the cold brass dial. A sudden realization struck him. He, too, had been deaf to time, just like the city had forgotten this tower. "Will you help me restore it?" Alyosha asked. Without hesitation, Alexander agreed. The restoration took months. Alexander balanced his university studies, speaking events, and the physical labor at the tower. He climbed ladders, cleaned cogs, painted walls. Many days he worked in silence, reflecting on each hour he invested. The project became a metaphor. The broken clock was once his life, cluttered, unbalanced, silent. Now, each piece he restored brought clarity. One snowy evening, as they installed the final gear, Alyosha looked at him and said, "Your hands have repaired this tower. Has your heart learned its rhythm?" Alexander replied, "Yes, time speaks even in silence." They rang the bell together that night. It echoed across the icy rooftops of St. Petersburg. Windows lit up. People paused. Some smiled, others whispered. The bell had returned, but time would test him soon. In the spring, Alexander received a scholarship offer from a top Islamic university in Turkey. It was a dream come true, but it meant leaving his mother and Alyosha. He wrestled with the decision. Shade's mother, with tears in her eyes, said, "Time never stops for a mother's heart, but if you chase knowledge for Allah's sake, time will bless you. Time does not belong to us. We are its servants. Go where time calls you. Alexander left for Turkey. His days became even more structured. Each hour was a mix of study, prayer, reflection, and teaching others online. But distance was not the only challenge. One day, he received news. Alyosha had passed away peacefully in his sleep. He flew back for the funeral. As he stood by Alyosha's grave, he whispered, "You gave me time when I wasted it. I will now give time to others, just as you did." Months later, Alexander was invited to deliver a major speech at a youth conference in Moscow. Thousands gathered. He stood at the podium and began, "Time does not knock. It moves silently. You can either walk with it or be left behind in your own regrets." He shared Alyosha's wisdom, the clock tower story, and his own transformation. Young hearts lit up. Older ones wept. After his talk, a small boy came up to him and asked, "Sir, are you a teacher of time?" Alexander smiled, knelt down and replied, "No, time is my teacher. I only share its lessons." Alexander Petrovich had become a symbol of wisdom and discipline throughout Russia and abroad. His lectures on valuing time had been translated into multiple languages. His books, filled with reflections on faith and productivity, had inspired thousands. But Alexander knew that time is a journey, not a destination. He had now returned to St. Petersburg, older and more grounded. The clock tower he once restored now stood as a heritage site. School children visited it to hear the story of the young man who once wasted time and then became its student. But now, Alexander faced a greater mission. He gathered scholars, thinkers, teachers, and students from across the country. With their help, he founded the Academy of Time, a center for spiritual education, time management, and social reform based on Islamic teachings. Its motto, "To live is not enough. One must live aware." The Academy taught Quranic time management, prophetic habits, productivity tools, and civic responsibility. Every Friday, Alexander would give a public lesson titled "Moments Worth Remembering." The youth began quoting him, "Time is not to be managed, it is to be respected." One winter morning, a 14-year-old boy named Musa came to the academy. He reminded Alexander of himself, restless, distracted, full of potential but lost. Musa had lost his father in a car accident and had since fallen into laziness and grief. Alexander took him under his wing. He gave him books, assigned him duties, taught him how to schedule his time, and most of all, how to heal through purpose. Months passed. Musa bloomed. He began writing poems, organizing youth events, and even started a podcast, Minutes with Musa. One day, he asked Alexander, "How do I know if I'm using my time well?" Alexander replied, "Ask yourself, if today were your last day, would you be proud of how you spent it?" Alexander was now older, with silver hair and a slower walk, yet his heart remained young. He announced a farewell journey across Russia to meet those who had followed his story. In Kazan, he met former addicts who found purpose through his teachings. In Siberia, he met prisoners who had memorized Surah al-Asr and pledged to live differently. In every city, he ended with the same words: "Don't chase time. Walk with it. Pray with it. Learn with it. Share it. And when it leaves, let it leave. With pride, Back in St. Petersburg, he returned to the clock tower. Musa was now managing the academy. Alexander handed him Alyosha's broken pocket watch. "This belongs to you now. It once reminded me of death. Now, may it remind you of life." That night, Alexander rang the bell for the last time. He passed away in his sleep, peacefully, just as Alyosha had. Musa delivered his funeral sermon. He didn't just teach time. He lived it. He honored it. He gave it to others. His life was not counted in years, but in hearts changed. Every clock in the city rang that evening. Schools paused. Streets fell silent. Children looked at the sky. Elders closed their eyes. The man who once wasted time had become its guardian, and his legacy ticked on.